This is Purist Brain Farts.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Amazing. Totally amazing.
Once more with feeling.
I see you got some Bobby Dazzlers in your ear holes.
Well, do you know what happened? Many years ago, back in the days of Yonder and Your...
Is this going to be a long story?
Yes, no, it's not. I got my ears pierced a number of times. 4 times in one ear and 2 or 3 in the other.
That was careless.
I did it on purpose. And then at uni, all my jewellery got nicked.
Bad that.
Everything. And it wasn't worth anything, except for to me. They probably put it in the bin. They were like, what's this load of old crap? Anyway, I then was like, oh, rude. And I wasn't about it. Recently, I got my friend's daughter re-pierced my ears, just one. And then I was like, I put some earrings in without looking properly, but I put them into the next hole up without realising. And re-pierced it myself without even realising. Like, hello, high pain threshold, how are you? So that was all very nice. And then I realised I could get all of the holes re-pierced.
Gosh, you didn't do a good job of this one, did she?
I just pierced them all by shoving the earring through, so that was quite nice. And then I went on Vinted, and then I was like, hello second-hand earrings, how are you? And I got a haul pull, 30 odd pairs of earrings for £6.
30 odd pairs. That's really rubbish.
No, what I meant was approximately 30 pairs. And they're not all to my taste, I'm not going to lie to you. But my friend's taken some, and then actually she gave me some of hers that she didn't want. So it's just earring city. It's lash.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm really liking it.
How many are you wearing at once?
At the moment, I've got quite a chunky pair in, so I've only got one earring in each ear. Mm-hmm. But I can do what I want. Fine.
Gosh.
So it's an accessory that I had not used for a long time. I'm talking like 30 years.
Wow.
And I'm appreciating the rediscovery.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Talking of accessories, ages ago, maybe a few months ago, one of my kids was interested in doing some of those friendship bracelets. Do you remember we did them years ago, off of the olden days?
Yep.
And obviously, Mum, being a legend, for some reason still had loads of the silk thread and
because it's
whatever.
just more normal embroidery silk, isn't it?
It's just standard. Ask Granny and she's bound to have it. So we went round and picked up some stuff, and then I made myself one in the colours of one of the bands I'm in. And it's, I just was reminded, 1, how long it takes.
2, how boring it is.
And 3, how nice that is.
It's a very lovely friendship bracelet. I'm looking at it right now.
It's got some girth to it. So I can't remember how many threads. A few.
Just a few.
Mm-hmm. And it's black, pink and yellow, because those are the colours of mixology.
If you don't know about mixology, dear listeners, do check them out. Paul's band is called that. They are absolutely brilliant. I've been to 2 of their recent gigs.
Amazing.
Yeah.
The band Mixology on Instagram. Epic, which is nice.
So there we are. They
Yeah.
very much have it.
They very much have it. And so maybe we ought to, should we?
Yeah, go on then.
Right. I've already fired it up.
Amazing.
The RTG.
Yeah, go.
Rocket
3, 2, 1.
themed
I'm about to get set.
grenade. Right, so I've already fired it up. Off we go.
Random theme generator. Random theme generator.
Wow.
All right, easy with the enthusiasm, Paul.
Wow. Do you know what?
What?
What's really berserk is how what you just said is so relevant to what the RTG
It's
is
not
just spat out.
enthusiasm, is it?
No.
Passion.
No.
Purpose.
No.
We could go on.
Let's not. It has spat out Judgement.
Judgement. I'm looking that up currently in Oxford, and it's thusly as follows. It's in its noun form, the ability to make considered decisions or come to sensible conclusions. Considered decisions, sensible conclusions. Or a misfortune or calamity viewed as divine punishment.
Interesting.
So, that was, we've been judged for our sinful ways or whatever. So that's very interesting. It could be a decision of a law or court, the judgment, or it could be an opinion or a conclusion. So the ability to make considered decisions, an opinion or conclusion, a decision of a law, court or a judge, or a misfortune or calamity based on past actions.
Blimey.
It's quite big, isn't it?
It is big. And the first one was a bit judgy. Sensible decisions. Depending on what sensible is.
Yeah. Well, that's subjective.
It is. Very. The little pitter-patter of tiny feet. It's not children. It's Dizwad.
Dizzy rascal. Come on, girl. She's found a tennis ball, which she's currently ripping to pieces.
Which is great. Ooh.
So, yeah, you can hear her pilling around.
It's either that or you can hear incessant barking. So we went with the pitter-patter and pilling about.
Because, bless her, she's still a little bit anxious when we leave her. So
She can get over it.
I did talk to my next-door neighbour about it because, of course, they can hear it through the party wall. But my next-door neighbour, before we get into judgment, I'm not judging her for this. But she's been upholstering a chair, which involves quite a lot of hammering.
Right.
She hammers.
Does
Dizzy
sound
barks.
a bit judgy. Oh. Love that. Like a double act.
So my neighbours are so great. They've been really, really good about the barking, and she is gradually getting better.
That's good.
Yeah.
A gradual improvement.
So, sorry, judgment.
It was used loads in the 16th and 17th century, and then it went down for a while, not used much in the 1900s, and then went on the increase from the 1950s to where we are now. It's all very judgy now, which is nice. Yeah, judgment is an interesting one because I guess you're trying to get to a point of there's something being black or white.
Yeah. You've come to some kind of conclusion. Yeah.
You've assessed that this is the right conclusion as opposed to the wrong one or whatever. And it's really complicated because there are so many things. Okay, so let's do it the other way around. What are the things do you think that are black and white? And maybe we can talk about those initially because I feel like there's a lot of grey areas.
A piano keyboard is black and white.
Mm-hmm. Unless you're colourblind, it might be grey.
I was just thinking that the nuances of judgment is also where it's aimed at. So am I talking about an external situation that I need to discern whether, in my opinion, that is okay? And that's going to be based on lots of complex factors, including my own moral code and other things. So
yes.
Am I looking at situation A and saying, in my opinion, so, drawing my own conclusions, or even worse, being somebody who is having to listen to two sides of an argument and arbitrate or come to some kind of conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
That's even worse. But then the other way is when you're turning that judgment inwards on yourself. So that's the inner critic sitting in that chair of judgment in a way. Well, it is for me anyway, and saying, well, I think that was poor. You found that. And I had a conversation with somebody this week who, we'd had an interaction, and we're really good friends, and she was coming at it from one place and I was coming at it from another place. And so the interaction felt off.
Mm-hmm.
And my opinion of it at the time was, we haven't quite connected on that. And then we had this beautiful conversation about it this week. And she said, I just wanted to check in with you about that. I explained my perspective. She explained her perspective. And I was able to own that my behaviour wasn't quite clean, in the sense that I was rushing and busy and hadn't been able to show up with the capacity to tune into where she was and meet her where she was at, which is why it felt a bit off, I think.
Yeah.
And so that was a lovely conversation. And so I think that the thing I'm noticing about the definitions of judgment is they are not they are relatively neutral. It implies good or bad, right or wrong. But I think that judgment is used, certainly for me, maybe just in my own internal dialogue, it's a pejorative thing. Oh, that was very judgy. Oh,
Yeah.
Judgmental much? So it's not neutral now as a term.
No.
It's loaded.
That's right. It does feel very loaded. And, one of the things that I use a lot because people know, maybe listeners know, maybe they don't. Lou and I work together. We have a company called Connect How. We do really wicked, amazing things. We do executive coaching, leadership programs, and change facilitation. And then we've also got our own private coaching practices. So we work with individuals. And all the work that I do with individuals, and that includes the stuff we do with Connect How, is all focused on curiosity overwhelming ego, overwhelming judgment, so that, we can leave judgment where it is and just be curious about things. And I find, because so much, and it's interesting just seeing that graph of how since like the 1950s it's really taken off, the use of the word again. I find it, because it is a loaded question, and I am very judgmental of myself, and I am very mindful of being judgmental of others. Doesn't mean I'm not. I'm very mindful of it. And so it is a complicated one, because I guess judgment is being used more and more in less neutral ways, and much more in terms of trying to create more polarization, more dualism, in order for one party or another to justify their position or to strengthen their, or whatever.
Yeah.
And so the moment I can be curious about things for myself, other things become available. The moment, as the times when I judge myself harshly for things, which obviously never happens.
Yeah, I just don't know what you mean.
Yeah.
By judging yourself harshly, I can't relate at all.
No. What I've heard other people suffer from.
Allegedly.
So when I judge myself really harshly, I am closed off, because I'm focused very much on whatever it is that narrative is that's going on for me. And so when I can be curious, this enables me to listen to what other things are available. And so if I'm, just thinking about your example with chatting with a friend, when I'm doing the same thing and, we're having a heated dialogue and it's really, really great, I can sort of almost feel the energy difference in my body if I'm approaching it from a place of, well, I'm right.
Yes.
You know, there is an energetic difference to me being really animated and curious about, so here's what I think, here's my opinion, and tell me more about that, and why do you think that? And, oh, well, that's interesting, because I don't think it's like that. I think it's like this. There's a big difference, I think, in the energy that comes across.
And I think that I agree completely. And then you are able to have a discussion, not a discourse where one person waits for the other person to stop speaking so
Yeah.
that they can start speaking and just say more about what they think. That isn't a dialogue.
Yeah.
That's two monologues running in parallel.
Yeah.
And I think lots of debate these days can tend to be a bit like that. And I saw something the other day, which was where I live, in the town where I live, there was a thing for International Men's Day, which fell last week, and there was a group, a local men's group was going to be in the high street, and there was a choir, and they were going to be singing and some really lovely things, and it got posted on this Facebook group, which is exclusively for women. And the person who did it prefaced it by saying, I am a bit nervous about putting this out here because of the inevitable comments coming back, well, isn't every day International Men's Day? And that can be true. And we're not saying that isn't true, but these individual men who are showing up in these men's groups and in choirs and doing things in their community, well, they're not part of this collective.
No.
And so it's also true that these people can be struggling and be challenged.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, 100%.
We can. So the nuance of holding two thoughts in your head which conflict, or maybe they don't actively conflict, maybe they're just very different. I think we've almost been trained to say, well, only one of those things can be true.
That's right.
Actually, they can both be true, and more other contradictory things can also be true. We don't have to have a narrative which just means only the things that we believe are true.
Yeah.
So, and I think judgment and the fear of judgment, which is the thing I tuned into from that individual, I was very grateful for their post, and I thought I wouldn't have known about it otherwise.
Yeah.
But, you know, this whole thing where you can be cancelled because you've said something wrong. That's like en masse judgment by the internet.
Yeah.
And you can't do anything about that.
That's right.
So then people are afraid.
Yes. Just look at so relatively recently to us recording this was the presidential elections in the US.
Yep.
And, you know, that by its very nature is each party saying I'm right and the other is wrong.
Yep.
So it's obviously Judgment Town, Tennessee. And even in conversations, I remember having some conversations with some good friends about the elections, and they're like, oh, so if you lived in the US, who would you vote for? And my honest answer was, I don't know enough about either party. And what I do know is that there isn't a right answer. You know, there's not been a right answer in the UK for, I don't know how many years. But
Ever.
Ever.
There was never a right answer to these things.
And so it's interesting because then the conversation goes very quickly to, oh, well, I wouldn't go that way, or I wouldn't do that. So in the end, I was just able to highlight 3 or so of the things I knew about each candidate. And that was it. You know, I wasn't able to pass a judgment on whether this one was better than the other, because I'm not well informed enough, and maybe that's another important aspect of being able to pass judgment to therefore get to taking action, because following judgment, I guess, is action. You know, if you judge something to be right, you go and do it. If you judge something to be wrong, you try and make good whatever it is. If you judge that now's the time to have food, you go and do that. So it's interesting because in order to make in my view, a decent judgment, I need to be informed when it is only A or B.
So what do you feel about gut response? That more embodied judgment.
Yeah.
How does that feature in this?
Great question. I think the gut response is hugely undervalued. I think that is developed based on lived experience, so it is informed and it is unconscious and it is real. You know, the millions of nerve endings that are in the gut. You know, there's a very good reason why people say trust your gut.
Yes.
You know, it's not the only place that thinks. You know, your brain is not the only place that thinks.
Yes.
And so, yeah, there's absolutely a place for trusting your gut. Absolutely there is.
It's interesting because a friend of mine taught me this practice. It's called body dowsing. And you ask, and it's using your body to make a judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And so you stand and you imagine that your feet are rooted down into the earth and connected deeply into the earth. And then you stand there and imagine you're connected to the sky and the air and the infinity of the universe above your head.
Mm-hmm.
And then you connect into your heart in your body itself, and you're stood there in a neutral position. And then you ask yourself the question, should I do X? And then you lean forward. For me, I lean forward for yes and back for no.
Interesting.
And there's this strong forwards or backwards.
Interesting.
So, yeah, that's another way of using the body to make a decision or discern. It's not the only thing. You wouldn't say, should I take this, I don't know.
Red pill, blue pill.
Yeah. You don't necessarily body douse that. But it's just, it's interesting how these embodied practices can be part of tuning into our gut instinct, really. Because I think we live a lot of our lives in our heads.
Yep.
How do we actually connect into our gut? And there's that really interesting book, I think it's called Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. And it does talk about those instinctive responses to things. And he talks about this statue. It's an ancient Greek statue that had been discovered, a new one. And if it was genuine, would be an incredibly valuable, in all senses, thing to have discovered. Of course, they got all sorts of scientific tests and everything else. They were all coming up as, yes, this is genuine. And this museum in the States somewhere got this world-renowned expert on this type of carving and sculpture to come and look at it. They wanted an opinion. And this person walked in the room, saw the statue, and they instantly said it's a fake. Now, they hadn't seen any of the data, and they didn't know what any of those scientific tests had said. But when they were asked about their response, they said it was as if there was a big panel of glass between them and the item, the object. And they couldn't get to it. And it was this instinctive, energetic, and they're like, no. And it was a fake. In the end, it was proven to be a fake. So the point, I guess, is we shouldn't only go on our gut reaction. If we have a gut reaction, we need to check into it. To your point, get some data, do some research. But it's a powerful indicator.
Yes.
And not one we should necessarily ignore.
And I guess the other thing is dilemmas. Because, within a dilemma, you are trying to judge which way to go, left or right. And I remember doing this IFS meditation, Internal Family Systems by Dick Schwartz. And there is this meditation you can do where you connect. It's the concept, I'll just read mine very quickly. IFS is the concept of the fact that we are made up of parts. Our conscious is made up of parts. So we're not of one mind. We are of many different parts. And some, simplistically, think of the kids' film Inside Out. Simplistically, that's like
great film.
It is a great film. So is Inside Out 2.
Yes.
Which gets a bit more nuanced.
Where the sequel is just as good as the OG.
Indeed. And so, the idea being with this meditation, and it's not like a bong, cling kind of meditation. It's just a tuning in, a reflection. And what you do is you invite the parts forward that have different views. Mm-hmm. I think we should turn left. Okay, great. I think we should turn right. Okay, that's the other part. And then you ask each one questions like, if you'd ask the left part or the part that was voting for turning left, if you said to it, what's the worst thing that could happen in turning right? Mm-hmm. And then it would say whatever it says, because this is not a cerebral thing, like you were saying. It's not being in your head. It is about tuning into your body. Where does this part show up in your body? How do you feel it, and so on. Anyway, what is interesting with that is that it is sort of combining the complexity of our minds with somatic physiological responses, which could include your gut, for example, and getting to a place of sort of conscious clarity where you can make a decision or judge which way for you is best, left or right. I found that to be very, very cool. Mm. Very cool.
There are lots of ways of improving how we discern, how we filter, how we judge, and I mean judge in the most benign sense, how we make decisions, how we, establish the North Star of our own lives. And I guess really with judgment, that's the judgment I'm interested in, and the stuff that really makes me curious. The rest of it, where in order for us to be in a civil kind of relationship with other people, we need them to believe the same things that we do. And there is a very negative judgment on those who don't. I'm less into that. I think it's reductive. I think that's a race to the bottom. Bless you, Dizziee. Oh, she just done a massive bogey.
That is really
Where
gross.
did that go?
There on the handle. That is nasty, you
She
massive snot
has
thing.
just done a massive snotter on Paul's JBL speaker. Sorry about that, Paul. Tiswad, come on, Dizziee.
Go and lick it off, you dirty dog.
Dogs don't use tissues.
No, so lick it off.
It's self-evident.
Dirty skank.
Don't call my dog a skank.
Why not? She just fired a massive bugger across the room.
Yes, but she's a dog. She doesn't have opposable thumbs. She can't use tissues. We've just said that.
We've just said
So you've
that.
just negatively judged the dog and called her a skank.
Yeah, well, it's gross.
I'm not disputing that it's gross.
Lick it off if you don't, if you like it so much.
I think I'll just wipe it off with a tissue.
Fine. I haven't got any within arm's reach.
No, we'll do that in a minute. The point is, judgment. you know that expression, check yourself before you wreck yourself. I think if we are too rigid in our own judgments, then that will ultimately have a negative impact on us and on people around us.
100%. So maybe some useful ingredients that we find are getting ourselves informed, having some information, checking in with our bodies, seeing what's going on, noticing our gut response, being curious about where this is all coming from, and then having some openness and flexibility around things being different to what we'd originally thought.
Yeah, and I think the last one I would add to that is just knowing that neurologically, when we hear views that we passionately believe in being opposed by somebody else who also passionately believes in what they're saying, it's just the opposite of what we believe, that fires the parts of our brain in that fight flight. It's as if we're being chased by a bear. It's the same parts of the brain that get activated. So that needs managing.
Yeah.
We need to step our nervous system out of that mode, and then we're connected to our resources again.
Yes.
And so that for me is always the first step, to breathe and see that reaction's been set off. And then, as you say, we've got all those other beautiful things that can be done.
Amazing.
No judgment.
I couldn't help myself.
I've just judged you for that, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I could tell.
Hashtag just saying.
By the death stare.
And you've been judged. It's been a
Listen,
room full of judgment.
Yeah. I judge this to be a really judgy episode. And
Judge Judy.
Judge Judy. The other thing is, if you would like to pass judgment on this episode, please keep it to yourself, unless it's really positive, and then we'll gladly accept that. And if you also would like to get involved in some way by suggesting a theme, whatever, drop us an email to curiousbrainfarts@gmail.com.
Amazing.
Splendid.
I'm off to wipe the bogey off the speaker.
Sorry if you're one of them gaggy people that gags when you... Oh, I can't actually do it anymore because I will be sick.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Curious Brain Thoughts.